Mr. Christopher Watkin. It is my sincere pleasure to have you on the Little Book of Proptech. That's intro done.
Oh, is that the bit where I say thank you, David, for having me on your show?
And then I say, Chris, you know, I've envied you for such a long time, where you ask a big dramatic question and then it cuts to the cinematic kind of, you know, montage and the letters coming in and the big epic dramatic music. I've always wanted that for myself. So can I have a go at trying that?
Go for it.
Okay. Christopher Watkinz, journalist, ex-estate agent, industry cheerleader, mentor. Let me ask you, what is it about David Mintz's Little Book of Proptech that makes it the best interview series you've ever seen? Epic, eh? Hey?
Yeah.
Come on. I put the homework in.
Exceptional. Exceptional. It was so good, I even forgot the question.
Thank you for joining me. As ever, you are very, very generous with your time. And I suppose when I didn't know the real Chris Watkinz and I just sort of read your posts online, I think you already know this because I've mentioned it several times, that it irritated the living hell out of me because I felt that you were taking a critical swipe at me. Not me personally, but me as in my peoples. And I ain't talking about the Hebes, I'm talking about the agents here. And I think what made it sometimes so hurtful, if you like, and I know it wasn't intended in that way, was that you absolutely got inside the psyche of an average agent with your cynical use of the phrase free valuations, etc. And I suppose it was only once I got to know you through podcasts and various different things that I understood that that's the side of you that's trying to provoke dialogue on essential subjects for estate agents, and that really you're more on our side than we are.
I blame my mother for that because that's the way she brought me up. Was, you know, not tough love, but, you know, telling it like it is, and you know, and it's all nature and nurture. But, you know, let's be honest, there's plenty of people out there that are vanilla, safe, you know, trying to be cuddly and nice. And I think the magic thing is I think it's really important, especially when you do video, is that you must be yourself always. You shouldn't be someone who you're not, because you will get found out. And this is just the way I am. I do care about the industry that I adore to bits. But I'm really disappointed with the type of person that tends to be attracted to a estate agency, which is an outgoing people person. You know, that's the classic value of profile. If you want the technical side, it's the disc profile on the eye profile, which is the influencer. So which means that they want everyone to love them. They use their people skills to persuade. Oh, there's a doorbell, and I do promise you.
Go on, you go for it.
No.
This is the point in the interview that Mr. Watkins gets up to answer the door and finds that there are 3 police officers waiting for him, and that finally caught up with him and taking him off to jail. On behalf of all the industry, I'd just like to say that we never really liked Chris. We didn't condone any of the things he said or did, and it's about time that justice was dealt. Thank you. Oh, he's back.
I hope it's all bad.
No, we were just speculating, me and the audience, as to where you were. But when I play this back later, you'll find out.
Ah, lovely. Thank you very much. Yeah. So where was it? Yeah. You got to be you got to be truthful to who you are, so no one finds you out. And yeah, disc profiling. Yeah. So most agents are outward going sort of people. They're not process driven. They want everyone to love them, and they use their people skills to persuade people to do things. That's what makes them bloody good estate agents, especially listers.
You know, I get an awful lot of calls from parents of usually young teenage boys that are threatening to lose their way in life, and they call and they say, "Look, you know, my Tommy, he's not so great at school, and I don't know, he's not so suited for academic lifestyle. He's definitely not going to go to university. Could he come and work with you? Because we feel that the estate agency is a job where, you know, he's very good at talking, but he's not very good at studying. He's not got great discipline." And I cannot tell you how many times in the past 10 years that conversation has happened, where a parent assumes that this is the industry for somebody who might never get to grips with real life. And they're worried about them going off the rails a little bit, but they know it's almost like, well, that's going to be a safe job for them, because as long as they can talk and turn up for work in a suit, then they're going to sell something, therefore they're going to earn a crust. The perception of our industry from the outside is very different to how we see it on the inside.
Yes, but perception is reality, isn't it? To the beholder.
Well, that's taking it on a very...
The truth is that most valuers are of the eye profile on disc profiling, and which means that they're truly fantastic estate agents make some crap bosses, truly crap bosses, because they're not systemized. And the biggest thing is that this is why valuers and listers are so poor at business generation, is because the profile type that they are, their biggest fear is rejection, which means business generation is kissing lots of frogs to get, you know, and that you're basically picking up their greatest fear, which is no. So that's why that is why
fear of rejection.
Yeah, fear of rejection. That's why most valuers are so atrocious at business generation. I mean, I find it fascinating that I always ask, you know, any valuers watching this, and I'm not talking about owners here, I'm talking about valuer listers, is physically go back through your last 53 valuations or whatever you call them, and how many of them came to you because of your direct actions, i.e. someone rang you up saying, could you come and value my house, or my next door neighbours recommended you, or your personal direct business generation skills. And the best I've ever seen is 10 out of 50. The nearest person is 3, and normally it's 1 or 2.
Yeah, and that's the constant debate that we have here. I must tell you about where a vendor, when they're picking their agent, where that journey starts, and we have major disagreements about this. And it all comes down to whenever we're asked to assess the value of Rightmove products, as they call them. So anybody, just to fill in the blanks for people watching, traditionally the way that Rightmove have worked is if you are on anything other than the lowest tier, they give you a certain amount of Rightmove dollars to spend on products. Now, those products can be banners, those products can be featured listings or premium listings, and some of those things are nice to have if you need to placate a vendor sometimes, if you've taken on overpriced stock and you're not the kind of agent that's going to manage that price downwards, but you just need to buy yourself another couple of weeks with a vendor that's probably going to withdraw and go to your competitor anyway. So premium listings are seen as those kind of baubles that you give away. But what's interesting about all of these products is the way that they're sold to you and the way that we analyze them from within is that if I was a vendor and I was starting out my journey of selecting an agent, I'm going to go to Rightmove because that's where I know all the properties are listed. I'm going to try and see the agent, hopefully see the agent with the highest amount of visibility, maybe the highest number of listings. You're shaking your head, and you and I share that opinion, by the way, Chris. But this is the opinion that I get sold to me. And so therefore that's where they're spotting you. But I must tell you, I go to pitch in people's living rooms pretty much every day of the week, and never once has somebody says, I've called you because I saw a featured listing at the top of Rightmove and you were the one. So I agree with that notion. And I think there's so much more to be gained in being the guy from the videos. That's who I've now become, if you like. I get people coming up to me going, oh, I love watching you walk around people's houses, because people are nosy and they like that sort of stuff. And I'd much rather be associated in that way, which is entirely free, than the more expensive way.
I think the point is that just like people think all travel agents are the same, the perception of estate agents is that we are all the same. You know, if you go and look at every estate agent's website, change the font and change the colour, and they're all identical. Banner across the top, buy, sell, rent, about us. You know, they're all the same.
Yeah.
Okay. Rightmove has both been the saviour and the killer of UK estate agency, in that it has created a level playing field for Joe Blogg's estate agent who's only been here 1 week to have the same visibility for his or her listings compared to we've been here 140 years. Okay, so it's created a level playing field for listings. You know, fundamentally, estate agency is very simple. 2-stage process. 1, get the property to sell. 2, sell the property. Rightmove covers that second part very, very, very well.
Yeah.
Okay. It's perfect. Okay. And as long as, I'll be straight with you, as long as you put the property on at a reasonable price with decent photographs and good marketing,
it will sell.
The point is that because estate agents are the ones that pay for Rightmove and not the vendors, right? Estate agents don't want I make this premise that estate agents don't care if a property sells or not, which again, it might raise a few eyebrows. But if we really did care if the property sold or not, why does, you know, Rightmove quoted a figure a couple of years ago, 6 in 10. Spectre have, well, that was 3 or 4 years ago. Spectre have said in 2019, over 50% of properties sell with the second agent, and they track every property and they track it being swapped. And I know there's a few people out there say, I don't believe your figures, and Spectre have got something to, you know, it's in their interest to say that. But that's great if you're one of these agents that actually sells everything you do. But again, I find it fascinating that those same people then employ Spectre to go and hoover up the other agents, bring them to theirs. So if they didn't really believe in it, why are they employing Spectre to hoover up the properties?
Because it's such a fickle industry in some ways. Our mindset sometimes.
Right, it's because estate agents hate their competitors more than Rightmove.
Well, yeah, not just that. We all take the view. Who hasn't had the conversation? Oh, that's overpriced. Are you joking? They'll never sell it at that figure, but it's a board, so let's take the instruction. And that conversation happens in UK estate agencies every single day. And people therefore,
because they would rather have the board and someone tickle them under a thing that they love them, because they don't. Again, when I say they don't care, of course they care. But fundamentally, if they did care, they wouldn't overvalue, because they know damn well that there's a greater chance they'll go with the competitors.
And it's interesting. I think if you watch the genesis of smaller single branch startup agencies, so they're making a complete cold start. Now, those are the businesses, at least for the first 6 to 12 months, do care about the price of their stock because they've got to eat what they kill. And if they don't manage to eat that, see, agents like us who've been established for donkey's years, and we might be in the position to take on a few overpriced listings, we'll carry it. And like you say, cognitive dissonance, we don't care whether it sells or not. I got that instruction. Joe Blogg's agent down the road didn't get it. But will it feed my kids? Almost certainly not. Is it costing me money to list it? 100%. 100%.
See, the point is if we come back to this two-stage thing about getting the property and then selling it, Rightmove is fantastic for the second part of the transaction. But because estate agents want the listings, and they're paying Rightmove, they want to pay Rightmove to help them find listings. I find it fascinating that estate and letting agents judge a portal on their leads, and then
Yes.
and then you ask them, okay, so surely there's a huge difference between the demand side of the leads, which is buyers and tenants, versus the supply side, which is landlord and vendor leads. And again, you ask most agents, and it's just poured into one pot. Okay, I also find it fascinating, and we had Andy from Yomdell on, who basically mystery shops every single Rightmove agent.
Yeah.
Okay, and 2 years in a row, they've sent 2 emails, which is classed as a lead, to Rightmove, and 52% of emails go unanswered.
So this is interesting. Yesterday, I interviewed Kristjan, Byfield, and Ann Deckers. By the way, that partnership, that they work great together. You need to, if you've not watched it, check it out. I think you mentioned in there one or two times. I like to try and mention you in all my work, Chris. You're the footnote at the end of my every page. But one of the things that we were talking about was something that Michael Nettleton had originally brought up. He agent response, fabulous, but he used the word dogma when it comes to the notion that agents are willing to let inquiries fall by the wayside and they're not responding to a sufficient percentage of inquiries. Now, Kristjan yesterday said, look, the truth is, behind the scenes, the reason why agents sometimes do get despondent about the leads that come in is that the quality of some of the leads that you're getting are so crap, let's face it, and some of them are so...
When we're talking leads, are we talking demand leads?
We're talking from buyers, and I'm talking from buyers, not sellers. I believe that if you...
Leads, demand, as in they want
demand.
To buy
they want to buy, they want to buy your product, because I believe that if the way agents' heads work is if they get an email from Rightmove saying potential vendor, that phone gets picked up, they're on the phone and they say, hello, Mr. Potential Vendor.
This is interesting. I interviewed the head chap of Callwell, Bob Scarf, and he sent out over 200 requests, the free val requests.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, when Rightmove can sell up to 5 of those per location, okay, and you've got to admit if you're number 3 or 4, the chances of you being called out for the free val are a lot less compared to being agent number 1.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Well, how many were called? What percentage were called? Gave him a call within the hour?
Oh, you're going to tell me something shocking like only 25%. Less than 25%. 5%.
17%.
Wow.
And I can't remember the number, so I'm not going to make it up. There was a good chunk that never even rang them back.
Well, I wonder what that says about the industry, and I wonder what the reason for that is, and I wonder where the psychology behind that is, because...
It's because bosses are running checkbook business generation. Because remember, bosses are more D-type on the disc profiling. which means that they can't be dealing with the minutiae of things. It's just too big picture. They're the sort of people who would rather write a check and get it sorted out. It's like Facebook advertising, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to learn how to do Facebook advertising. So I paid for 1 hour's worth of training from Paul Long.
Yeah.
Okay? Right? And in that hour, he told me how to set up an account, how to do different types of stuff you can do, you know, whether it's drive people to a website or drive them to for them to put their mobile telephone number in. Okay. And I took that. Now, I don't sell Facebook advertising because I firmly believe that you should only sell stuff that you're fucking good at, and I'm not good at it. But what I did do is, I'm happy to declare this, I'm a Freemason, okay? Funny handshake club, yeah, we get dressed up, that sort of thing, okay. And we've been running a campaign for the last 2 months using the 1 hour's worth of training that I had from Paul Long to attract new members into our lodge. And the numbers are so off the scale that the national headquarters have been ringing me up asking what the hell you can do. So it just makes you think, if you can be bothered to learn stuff, and I mean really learn it, you know, you within the hour, Paul Long could teach you how to do a free val thing where it actually gives you their name and their telephone number and their email address.
Yeah.
And as long as the creative is spot on. And how do you do that? Well, that's really easy, because again, on Facebook, you can go to a Facebook page, and there's a box that says page transparency. You click on that, and it tells you what your competitors' adverts are.
Yeah.
And
and that's why. But most people aren't going to. They're not going to put in that hard work.
Hard work and patience is the variables to success in this world. It's simple as that.
Let me ask you something closer to home, because obviously we could talk about industry method and best practice, if you like, all day and all night. But in terms of you and your background, as I understand it, your family's business was butchery, right? They were the meat men in Grantham. How did Chris become an estate agent? And then I want to talk to you about how you then didn't become an estate agent after that, and you decided to pivot a little bit.
Pocket money was stopped at 9 years old and thrown in washing pots at my mum and dad's butcher shop, which had been there since 1912. My dad's the third generation. My brother followed suit a couple of years later. And we literally were, I mean, at 9 years old, that's against the law, but back in the 70s and 80s, that's irrelevant. You know, and the people, you know, there's about 30 people that work there, quite clearly told that the fact that you're the boss's son makes no difference, and you're to be treated like a normal washing up lad, which meant bullying by the butchers and bakers. I mean that, you know, like, so I've got that little mark on my hand there where I burnt on a pan last week. Every single Saturday, that was like all on my arms, because we used to play flicking, you know, a wet rag and used to flick it.
Yeah.
Okay. Or getting and again, you know, getting pig's eyes and putting it into a cup of tea. So when you're drinking, you know, or being lifted down the drain, which is 6 foot to the bottom to lift all the gunge out, because that's what the washing up lads did. Okay. But it made me realise that you had to, you know, so if I was really into my space Lego at the time, and my parents are quite well off, but the deal is if you wanted it, they'd pay half, but you had to earn the other half. So it made me realise the power of money. So I was in my teenage years, I went into the front shop, serving in the shop, working Saturdays and the odd evening after school. I was never really going into the business. It was never really thought of. And the reason I went into a estate agency is, do you have work experience in Manchester? School work experience?
Yeah, sure.
So I went to work for Chartered Surveyors back in 1988. Okay. And I thought it was brilliant, because you used to razz around the countryside doing full surveys, having cups of tea. And I thought, shit, this is a fantastic job. This is, you're walking around the countryside, look at a house. Because I always kind of thought I might go into the RAF, but because I was in the RAF cadets, but never. Anyway, so I decided then to be a surveyor. So I went to Sheffield to do it.
I love this, by the way, from the RAF to the RICS, the story of Chris Watkin.
So there you go. I went to learn to be a surveyor. So I taught myself how to be a surveyor for 4 years, and came out of uni in '93. And '93 was a really bad time for the economy. There was no jobs in a estate agency, so I went to work for in surveying. So I went to work for an estate agency.
So are you in fact a chartered surveyor?
No, I haven't got RICS because I need to do an extra years of training. Although the RICS told me recently that if I fill in some forms, I will get it because of what I do at the moment.
Life experience, yeah. Contribution to the industry as well, I guess.
No, because because I'm a property statistician by business. That's how I earn my money. I can prove it. I just one of those things that I must get around to doing that.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's how I got into a estate agency. Never went back into surveying and went up through the ranks.
And given that you, I think, capture the mindset of an agent so well, to the point that it's annoying, but you do get it. You understand the complexities, the paranoia, the jealousy, the ego. You get it. But did you enjoy it? Did you spend every minute hating it? Were you counting down the minutes till you got to leave? Were you planning your exit from day one, or was that a gradual process?
I love it. I still love it. And in fact, 3 months ago, I said to Joanne, I'd like to start an estate agency in Grantham.
And did she say, "Are you out of your mind, man"?
And well, anyway, she doesn't say that much, but when she does, you listen. And she slapped me back, and I think the magic thing is that I've got I had this fantastic idea on how to target particular housing estates.
Yeah.
And basically create such a movement in each housing estate that you became the agent of choice within a year and a half. And I just thought to myself, well, I need to prove this. So why don't I prove it by actually starting an agency? And then the wife said, well, hold on a second. You've got over 100 letting and estate agents who basically
could use that.
Yeah. So why don't you teach them how to do it? So at the moment, I'm teaching my clients at the moment because not many people. It's funny, David. Whenever I do free mentoring calls every morning, one or two, where I say, look, if you just want to pick up the phone for half an hour, I'll give you some advice and opinion on how to attract letting landlords and homeowners. I do that because it gets me up in the morning.
So, Chris, you mentioned Mrs. Watkinz there for a minute. What role does she play in your life? Because I know that you and I had a chat at the beginning of lockdown, and I think we were both at the time struggling mentally with the new realities of life, that kind of lack of structure and so on. And I think we all have our moments where we get down from time to time. Now, for me, my wife is a psychologist by trade. So she does an awful lot of private work on me behind the scenes, but she kept me going. Every time I sort of felt myself slipping under, she sort of encouraged me to do the sort of things that I needed to do in order to keep this on track. What role does Mrs. W play in your house?
I'm the showman. I'm the person that goes out there that talks to people. But again, she's the one that I think we call it the rock and the swamp. I'm the rock that sticks out, that is, the shining beacon that everyone can see and talk. But she's my swamp, which keeps my level.
Right.
Okay. Because in the past, doing what I do, especially with the videos, you do get an awful lot of smoke blown up your arse. I'm sure you get it yourself, being a superstar.
Well, the only reason you're on this show is because one day I'm hoping you feel bad and you need to reciprocate the invitation and get me on that damn sofa of yours. But, hey, I'll happily speak to you whilst you sat in your kitchen.
One day you will be on that sofa, I promise you, for a Watkin versus with the fancy graphics as well.
Oh, I love it! I love it! I love it. So she keeps you. She's the leveler, really. Then
the leveler. It's funny because again, a lot of smoke does get blown up the arse, and it's very easy to let that go to your head. Especially those people, I'm sure you get it because you do it with the vendors ring you up and you're the guy with the videos. And if you're not careful, I think they call it hubris, where you kind of get full of yourself.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen that often, but she probably about once every 3 or 4 months, she'll just say, come on, I'll come in and say, I've just done this or we've won this. And she says, well, you still fill the bloody dishwasher, you're proud.
Yeah.
But here's a huge tip for everyone out there. If they do videos and they do start to get a lot more admiration, and we as human beings love to put positive feedback on a pedestal. Because we're all tribal animals, and when someone blows smoke up your arse, your ranking up in the tribe goes up. But you go up in the pecking order. That's why people fear video and fear social media, because if people laugh at them, they'll go down the pecking order. And the further you are at the pecking order, the more likely you'd have food and shelter and warmth and all the nice things in life. The further you go down, the less likely that you are going to have those things. So the magic thing is, and it's quite hard to do, but you have to, when someone pays you a compliment, you can't let it go to your head. You can't put positive feedback on a pedestal. You just have to say thank you and change the subject. And I genuinely am thankful for it. The point is that because people put positive feedback on a pedestal, it's when someone says something derogatory, because the brain doesn't, we crave positive feedback from others. All the brain sees is feedback. So you crave the positive stuff. And then when someone says something derogatory,
it hits you so hard.
I got a huge amount of nasty comments when I joined the Agents Together charity because of the founders because of the money behind it are the Bruce brothers.
Yeah.
Okay. And, a lot of people came back and said that was awful. And I'll let you into a secret. I actually enjoyed it because it's quite nice to get a balanced approach. Okay. Because I take on board the positive stuff, but I also take on board the negative stuff, because the negative stuff, it could actually be right.
Your involvement with that charity and Stephen Brown's involvement with that charity was the only thing, and you must take this as the biggest compliment, but it was the only thing that gave that charity to me validity. Because if you would have said to me, look, Bruce Brothers are starting a charity to focus on the well-being of agents. They care about agents' mental health. They care about supporting this industry. I would have said to you, and I would have probably been, I've drawn my conclusions from their business practices. And I must be honest with you, I do not believe that you can separate your business practice from who you are personally. So if you're a good and honest person, you should have a good and decent business running there. Some of the things that went on at Purple Bricks allegedly, and some of the things that went on at Purple Bricks that has been proven, to me, at best can be described as sharp business practice. And therefore, when they started that initiative, people like me who are terribly cynical anyway were extremely, and it was only the fact that I knew you. I mean, Simon actually said to me, let me just tell you this, that there's no chance Chris will let himself fall into the trap of being used as a patsy, if you like, as a poster boy for this sort of charity. And I know Stephen very well as well. And I know his character, and I know that he's not likely to sort of just sign up for the ego to tick a box. But it was very controversial. And I think agents should be forgiven for that sense of cynicism, given what came before. And Chris, the only other thing, and this is in no way a reflection on you, is that then obviously they reveal that they're launching a mega business later on. Now, to me, I actually don't care if people set up charities as a good PR move, as long as the charity does the work it was set up to do. I don't care. As long as it benefits people, they can set up as many charities as they want.
I mean, yeah. I mean, my understanding. I mean, I was aware of. It wasn't called Boomin at the time, but I was aware. I mean, if you actually go back, their
launch or something.
Project, Launch B was around 6 months before. Okay, and this is fascinating. Is that I actually had a blazing row with Michael Bruce because he wouldn't tell me what Launch B was.
Right.
Okay. And I'm glad he did that. I mean, Frank, I know plenty of people in the industry, so I kind of found out on the QT it was some kind of fancy portal. You know, if he was going to set up another estate agent, I think that would be different.
Yeah.
But I was quite chuffed to bits because I must be probably one of the only people that have still not been on a booming phone call. I still don't know what they do because it has absolutely nothing
to do with the charity.
Okay. And yeah, I mean, I've got myself and Stephen Brown and Michael Day and Sarah Edmonson and Samantha Jones. You know, we've for the first 4 or 5 months, 2 phone calls a week, 2 1-hour webinar, Zoom calls a week. Now we have 1 hour a week, and I do a couple of 2-3 hours worth of mentoring a week with them, and I also do 2-3 hours a week doing some video stuff for them. I do it because I care about the industry, but I care, that poor girl Chelsea who decided that she wanted to end her life during the first lockdown. If collectively we can stop someone doing that, then the flack we get. But what is absolutely fascinating is that the mentoring side of that it isn't a business, has really so taken off. And you listen to people.
It's needed. Sometimes all that's needed is a phone call from somebody outside of your box to say, look, there's a lot of commonalities here that you're going through with everybody else, etc. Chris, let me ask you about something else that's been in the headlines recently. And if you don't feel comfortable talking about it or you can't talk about it, tell me and I'll cut it out later and send it to the authorities.
Thank you.
But seriously, recently there's been a story in the headlines. I mean, one of the things that you do, to give it context, is that you, together with Jerry Lyons and other people like Andrea Bola, you are great content writers. So you will provide a voice and content for agents to use because, as you say, we're a certain mindset, we're a certain, and not all of us are very good at portraying to the public the more helpful side of what we're able to provide them with. And it's about finding that voice and it's about doing it in the correct way. More recently, there's been a story that has hit the national headlines. It's been in the BBC. It's gone far beyond the reaches of the property industry eye and our local press. So it's well and truly a story. But there's been a story recently of an agent not too far away from me that put out a flyer that effectively was talking in positive terms about the positive impact of COVID-19 on the housing market. Now, I picked up that story like everybody else, and I actually thought to myself, my initial thing was, the poor guys, all they were trying to do was drum up a bit of positivity and support, and to say they weren't necessarily belittling all those people that had losses or the horrific devastation wrought by this pandemic. But what they were trying to say is, look, if you're a homeowner and you're looking at selling your property, there's been worse times to try and get rid of it, put it that way. And I picked up the copy of that leaflet and I looked at it. It was heavily stats-based. And I thought, this smells like a content writer I know. I've not had a chance to ask you whether it was you or not, but whether it was you or not is a little bit irrelevant. My question is, has that story in any way coloured what you know, it's public perception, really, isn't it? When we put out copy, were they unlucky, or do you feel that the sentiment of that leaflet was wrong?
Okay, so for the record, that was not one of my pieces of content. I know exactly who wrote it, and I've known that person for over 4 years. Okay. Would it surprise you that that original article came out in the last week in November to many, many locations around the UK?
Yes. So I must tell you that I like to do my research, and so in finding out whether or not it was a content writer or it was their brainchild, all I did was I picked out a key phrase, 4 or 5 words, tapped it into Google, and it returned so many results from the end of November to mid-December. A range of agents have put this out. None of them, not a single one of them, has heard a dicky bird in terms of negative response to that. Exactly. It's not hit the headlines at all. But this agent did.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I know someone who gets this same article writer content, and she actually said to me, she thought it was one of the very best pieces of content she's ever had from this content writer. Okay, and she sent it to all of her landlords, and again, she says the type of landlords I deal with would soon jump on me if there was an issue. Now, the title could have been written in a
more sense.
Okay, you know me. I'm huge on my personally on the stuff I write on Facebook, not the stuff I write for my own clients. I enjoy a little bit of clickbait. Okay, now I think or as I prefer to call it, excellent headline reading. Okay? Yeah. You've got a good headline. Doesn't know how good the content is in it if you don't have a good headline. Okay, and if you go to journalism school, they teach you that the headline is more important than probably the content. Huge tip for all 2 estate agents that are watching this at the moment. Make sure I'm only putting your leg down. That's one more thing what Simon gets.
Don't worry. You know what? I do this for my own perverse satisfaction.
I do the Watkin sofas because I enjoy doing it just for the hell of it.
I let you in on the secret. If you would have pinned me down at any point in my teen years, and asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, it was always journalist. And in fact, I managed to. That's one of the jobs that I did at one point, and I loved it. But life is what happens when you're busy making other plans.
Look, I think the magic thing is the reason I enjoy it, and I'm sure the reason is that I'm doing this because I'm having a good chat with my mate, the Mintz Meister, in Manchester. I couldn't give a shit whether anyone watches this or not. I'm just having a great chat with my friend.
It's good that you don't care about that because, no. Do you know what? I'm glad to say it's been well received so far, so we'll carry on. So back to where you were.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that the title, in hindsight, and let's be honest, hindsight is a beautiful thing. It's funny. The government's. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too much, but there are certain political parties that are playing Captain Hindsight with regard to the COVID situation and what the government are doing, and it's very easy to play Captain Hindsight. Okay, it's foresight that you need, and again, there could have been probably better choice of title. Okay. Because the actual article itself, because I bet you £1 to a penny, most people that have jumped on it haven't read the whole article. Okay, it's like hyenas or a fight.
And completely. They've just read the first few paragraphs.
It's quite interesting that when I write my content, it goes through 4 filters before it gets to see anyone. Okay, firstly, it goes through to senior management. But what I also do is we have 3 ladies that work with us and for us, and I always ask them, from a cold point of view, is there anything here that raises an eyebrow?
Correct.
Yeah.
So what I will say to you is I just think there is it's I just think it's like most things. It's an unfortunate title, which probably in hindsight could have been written in a slightly better way, and really.
Okay. Follow-up question then, being even more cynical about it. Talking to Michelle Gallagher about this yesterday, and she was saying how sorry she felt for the agent because she understands it wasn't their intention to upset anybody on the level that they did. And I said to her, Michelle, don't worry about it necessarily. You can't buy publicity like this. There's still a chance for these guys to turn this around. They've made a very contrite public apology. It's well worded. They've admitted that they don't always get things right. They've admitted it was an error of judgment. They've conveyed that all they wanted to do was convey a sense of positivity in an otherwise dark time, all of that sort of stuff. And I thought there was an opportunity for them to turn that around, and that it didn't have to be devastating. Do you share that point of view?
I haven't seen I've seen the apology, but it did. Can't remember it. I mean, it was a couple of days ago. Is it your opinion that could have been better?
No. I think it's okay. I think the apology is all right. I think actually sometimes I guess what I'm trying to say is that sometimes out of tragedy or things that just go wrong, that's your greatest opportunity. And I actually think that's put this agent front and center in front of crowd, whether or not it's good publicity. You know, that whole adage that there's no such thing as bad publicity. I guess that's what I'm saying, that they probably still have an opportunity to turn this around.
I think the magic thing is this. I think they say in political circles that if it lasts more than 10 days, it's an issue. And I think, in a month's time, no one will remember this. What you've got to remember, David, is that there's a lot of fear and a lot of frustration out there in people's houses, in people's heads due to COVID. Okay, we're not, we're being cooped up in our own houses, and I'm assuming, again, I can only assume here that people are looking for some form of cathartic release, and this was something to jump on to, wasn't it? And
I think so, more than anything else. And if you read the comments,
I do feel for the people who have fears. I mean, there's the dog, bless him. It's hard work at the moment. Yet at the same time, it's not as if we are, 75 years ago. They were going through real shit. This is just, okay, we have to be cooped up inside.
I agree. I think this is more, it's like an existential crisis rather than one that threatens our existence through war or real, what I'd call real hardship. Having to choose.
With regard to your people in Europe 75 years ago, this is nothing.
Yeah, absolutely, and I hope that none of us ever have to make the choices that those people did sometimes, and have to sort of go through that. And I think we try to remind ourselves today that it's easy for me to, in a sort of virtue signaling way, state online what my views are and to show the world that I care about a particular thing. But let's face it, most of us, not all of us, and we need to stay mindful of that, but most of us are going back to a warm house. We won't have empty bellies tonight, and that wasn't always the reality.
No. People are fearful and frustrated, and they're going to the brilliant thing about social media is that we can do things like this. The awful thing about social media is that something which is probably misguided can blow up personally out of all proportion, but for someone else it could be in proportion. But we're all entitled to our own opinions. You have yours, I have mine. I think the magic thing is, as long as we can look after ourselves, look after our nearest and dearest, and in a few years' time, when we can all meet up and have a few beers, we'll laugh and joke about this. And yes, unfortunately, there's lots of people that have been lost on the way. That's life.
Absolutely. I'm mindful of your time, and so that means I'm going to leave to part two all the other big questions I was going to ask you, because I could talk to you for hours. But who in the industry in Proptech is really turning your head at the moment? Who do you think represent a decent product that really adds value to the users? And you can give me a few if you want. It's entirely up to you.
For letting agents, I'm a huge fan of fixed flow. You'll never hear anyone call it. And again, I'm going to stress to you, get paid any of this. I just, when it comes to CRMs, the only thing that people complain about Repeat is the cost.
Yeah. Customer service sometimes as well, if you're smaller.
I've heard a few things about that is slipped this year, but okay, fundamentally the CRM.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Other stuff that what really does it? Okay, the agent response thing that Mike Nettleton did, that really flicked my switch. I'm getting a presentation of it in a couple of weeks' time. Sorry, I've had the presentation and I'm interviewing a few agents, but Movepal, which tags onto the back of ValPal, sounds very exciting.
Okay.
What does excite me for business generation is Mark Burgess's life cycle. It's not cheap.
So he's got version 2 coming out now, I believe.
Going to attach a CRM to life cycle. Now that is like a cult, and I did say the word cult. I interviewed 7 or 8 of their agents, and they said they would rather drop Rightmove than they would rather drop a member of staff before they drop life cycle.
Should I tell you what else makes it cultish? It is the way that they in my opinion, and if they're listening, they're invited to explain it more in open terms. But there is a lot of Cloak and Dagger. There's a lot of secrecy behind what it is that it does. The videos are very vague. I watched one yesterday, which was very cinematic. It was full of pumped up.
What it does in layman's terms.
I'd love to know what it does, but I think the way they handle it is, and the agents that use it don't really, I think because they love it so much, don't talk about what it does. And I think when you inquire to them as a possibly new customer, they're extremely guarded about it.
Would you like to know in 60 seconds in layman's terms what it does?
Go for it.
Okay. So basically what you do is you completely upload the whole of your database into Lifecycle, and you upload all your Rightmove links and all your Facebook stuff into it. It then starts sending, you then chuck out your content out on your Rightmove listings, on your Facebook listings, and Facebook content, and your email database. So you keep chucking stuff out, okay? Like that, okay? And in each email and each code, everything it sends out, there's a little code on it, okay?
Yeah.
So let's just say, for argument's sake, someone sees your Facebook advert saying, so what part of Manchester are you again, David?
Well, we're North Manchester, so say Prestwich or something like that.
So therefore, let's just say you decided to put a top 10 top tips for Prestwich landlords, okay? Little booklet that you put out on a Facebook advert, okay? And what would normally happen is someone would normally click on that, and Facebook would put a little Facebook pixel on it, which would enable you to follow those around and retarget stuff. You're on with that one.
So far, so good.
Again, this is my understanding. Is that the life cycle system also puts a little tag on that person as well.
Okay.
What will happen is this, because with Facebook, the pixel, you don't know who that person is, do you?
No, not at that point. No.
Okay. And you're telling Facebook to keep chucking stuff at that person, but you still don't know who that person is. Now, what Lifecycle does is it puts its own little pixel on. So if in 2 years' time that landlord fills in a form on your website or to download the top 20 tips for Prestwich landlords, say, and the landlord then fills the details in, because life cycle's been following that person for 2 years, and they know that that landlord has been clicking on adverts about Section 8 versus Section 21 or rent arrears, on everything you've done about rent arrears, it now knows that because it's been following mystery person 1, 2, 3, X, Y, Z, when mystery person 1, 2, 3, X, Y, Z comes to the details, the life cycle goes, you're the same person. So Mr. Smith from Poshville, Tennessee, is a landlord who's really interested. He's only been clicking for the last 2 years on rent arrears stuff, and then flags that up to the agent saying, there is a shit hot lead here of a landlord we've been following for 2 years, and what he's really interested in and what he watches all the videos is rent arrears. So that means the agent can pick the phone up saying, Mr. Landlord from Tennessee, I've got an issue with rent arrears.
See, that's clever. Now, you've conveyed that to me in 60 seconds. Mark Burgess, if you're listening, get Chris Watkin to do you a 60-second explainer. It's done more for me than all the fancy adverts I've seen. Chris, I'm asking the wrong person this question. I ask everybody. You've very kindly given me an hour of your time. I normally ask them, if you could choose anybody within the industry, whose hour would you like? So an hour of whose time would you like? And you've had so many people on your sofa, and you've spoken to the best and the worst and the greatest. We saw you earlier sat with Her Majesty the Queen. So, I understand you've come a long way from the Queen to me. But so I'm going to expand the definition for you. Alive or dead, anybody out of time or history, whether it's in the industry or out of the industry, if you could have an hour with them, who would it be?
My late grandfather.
Oh.
Who passed away when I was 10, 11 years old. Because everybody says I take after him. I have the same disposition. I just like to get to.
It's interesting. Yesterday I asked the same question of Kristjan Byfield, and he never got to meet his grandparents, and the people that he chose to spend an hour with were also his grandparents. And I think a lot of what we do as adults is finding out who we are. And as you get older, your history, and particularly that of the generations that came before you, become more important to you, because you're searching for some sort of meaning and some sort of legacy that they've left you that perhaps runs through your life as well. And that's why we love those programs like Who Do You Think You Are? And
Joanne loves those. And I must admit, I always seem to be in the lounge from there on as well, because I do love them.
It's great telly. Chris, I'd just love to thank you again for pitching in and doing this. I'm definitely going to talk to you again, because there's a whole load of other stuff that I want to talk to you about. There's mindset stuff, because I think, yesterday you put out a post about agents and money and their view of whether or not they're in it for the right reasons, and what they portray to the public. And I think there's a lot more to be said about it. But today, it's not the time, because you have got important stuff to do, and I know that. Thank you very much. We'll catch up with you soon.
David, on behalf of the industry, I just want to say thank you very much for what you do, and also being a great foil to Whaley, because you're the sensible one. And I hope you saw I was defending you on the Between Two Whales, where I said,
I saw that you called me intelligent, and that touched me, because I wanted that big like. But the should I tell you who put it best to me was just blowing smoke up my own arse, but he was Ben Sellers said that I was trying to keep Proptech honest by offering the other side of that coin to people. So, you know what? I'll take that.
Clever man is Ben. Top man.
Oh, he's a great. You know what? If you could get an hour of his time, it's well worth investing in it, because he's got some great ideas.
Sofa.
Oh, well, there you go. I'm going to catch up on that episode soon. Chris, have a great day. Thank you very much for everything you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, David.